And please go ahead and admit people now, inshallah. Bismillah.
I'm just trying to mirror it there because
Dear brothers and sisters, please mute yourselves when you join. Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Dear brothers and sisters, I pray you are all well, inshallah, and I pray your families and your companions. Guys, can you mute up, please? For the sake of the benefit of the halaqah, please just mute yourself when we join, inshallah. Thank you so much, everyone. So, Bismillah, wal alhamdulillah, wa salawat wa salam ala Rasulullah wa alihi wa sahbihi wa min wala. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, dear beloved brothers and sisters. We are very pleased and honored to have you all with us. I hope you and your families and your companions are well. Thank you so much for giving out of your precious time to join the Futuwwah Academy of Sacred Manhood and Sacred Womanhood's study circle in our first session in our book club, which will be ongoing, inshallah. And today we will start to read together the foreword of the book written by Imam Dawud Walid. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept his khidmah and his scholarly work. And the book is about Futuwwah and how to raise males into sacred manhood. Our study circle and book clubs will be an ongoing thing. So every Sunday at 7:30 a.m. GMT, we will meet and read and reflect about Futuwwah from different literature and sources as a way for us to share and learn what is Futuwwah, and so that we can ground ourselves in the same reference point when it comes to what is the psychology of Futuwwah, what is the philosophical background of Futuwwah, how is Futuwwah grounded in Qur'an and Sunnah, why is Futuwwah important in this day and age, so that we all have the same reference point, dear excellent brothers and sisters. So we're very honored and pleased that you guys have chosen to be part of the study circles. And by grounding ourselves in the same reference point, then we can start to work with the mission and vision statement of the Futuwwah Academy and the plans that we have ahead when it comes to our works, inshallah. So thank you so much once more. Feel free to use the Zoom chat at all times if you guys have any questions with regards to the readings, if you guys have any thoughts or reflections. The Zoom chat is at your service. I want to thank my colleagues, Sister Dania Said, who is the International Secretary of ISIP, the International Students of Islamic Psychology, and the Futuwwah Academy of Sacred Manhood and Sacred Womanhood for excellent work. I also want to thank our project managers for our study circles and book clubs and Futuwwah Academy, Brother Shoaib and Sister Fatima. Thank you so much for giving out of your precious time and for organizing and managing our book clubs and study circles. And I also want to thank Sister Mediha, who is the head of the design team of ISIP and Futuwwah Academy, for doing all of our marketing material. I also want to thank all of our brothers and sisters in the organization committee of Futuwwah Academy for giving out of your precious time. We're very pleased and honored to really revive Futuwwah into our contemporary era as an antidote to deal with the diseases that has been afflicting and the aspect of masculinity and femininity. And we are very glad that together with all of you, dear brothers and sisters, we will be able to bring the antidote to the diseases of modernity that has affected Muslim men and women, inshallah. Please, during all times, if you guys can mute your microphones, we would really appreciate it, dear brothers and sisters. And I will ask Brother Shoaib and Sister Fatima and Sister Dania to also help out with muting so that we can have so when you guys mute, dear Sister Dania, Brother Shoaib, and Sister Fatima, please do not mute me or unmute me, inshallah. Thank you so much. We appreciate you guys being muted just for the sake of the smoothness and to conduct these halaqas in a smooth and thorough manner, inshallah. We will start by just going through a little bit about the mission and vision statement of the Futuwwah Academy of Sacred Manhood and Sacred Womanhood today. After that, we will briefly go through some of the reading materials and the schedule for the book club. We will also go through some of the resources, and we will also share a welcoming message from the author of the book, who is Imam Dawud Walid. We're very honored to work with him, and he's also part of Futuwwah Academy's advisory board, and he sends his salams and greetings to all of you, dear brothers and sisters, and he's really glad that you all are joining the book club to read and to learn from the sacred tradition of Futuwwah. So we will listen to his opening remarks. He was not able to join us physically today due to him, I think, is traveling right now, and he has a very intensive schedule. Nevertheless, he took his time to send his salams and greetings to all of us and to all of you, dear beloved brothers and sisters. So we will share that recording as well. So this is the agenda, and then we will start to read the foreword to the book, inshallah, and we will go through the reading schedule and all the resources. You guys have been the resources have been shared through email to all of you who have registered to the book club. And also, I hope you all have joined the WhatsApp group for the study circles, because moving forward, we will communicate through the WhatsApp group of the study circles. And if you go to the WhatsApp group description of the study circle, you will find the links to the resources, the links to the schedule, the link to the Zoom. We will use the same Zoom link for each session, inshallah. So you can always use the same link. If there is any changes, we will inform in the WhatsApp group as well, whether it's changes due to change of timing for the sessions, or maybe if we need to change the Zoom link. But for now, all the information that you need to access in order to be part of the book club, you will find in the WhatsApp group description of the study circle group, inshallah. And for all of you who have registered, you have been receiving an email earlier today and yesterday. All right. Futuwwah Academy of Sacred Manhood and Sacred Womanhood. This is our logotype, dear brothers and sisters. And we believe in complementarity, that we as men and women, we complete each other. We don't compete with one another. Compete is something that the Western tradition is trying to teach us that we should do. The Western tradition being the secular tradition, which is not grounded in anything that is sacred or based upon tradition or fitra. Rather, it's very nafsani and anthropocentric, which is human-centric. It's you who decide. There is no transcendence or higher moral ethics. We believe in the ethics given to us by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and through wahi and revelation, and through the praxis of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which we can see through the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So our ethics is based upon something higher than us as human beings, right? It's based upon revelation. Hence, we believe in complementarity rather than we compete with one another. And we believe that our biological dispositions are key in understanding what is sacredness and masculinity and femininity, and that the virtues of masculinity and femininity we can find in Qur'an and Sunnah. And that's why when we work with our logotype, dear brothers and sisters, we try to really reflect upon the complementarity of manhood and womanhood. And you can see that in the colors. So we have shifted the colors for women compared to men as a way to show the complementarity between men and women, and that we need each other, and that we are in need in one another, rather than that we compete with one another, and that we have sacred roles that both are unique for one another, but also in certain areas the same as well. So the uniqueness is that certain roles are unique for men, and certain roles are unique for women, and certain roles we share, and that we are in mutual need in one another based upon what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us when it comes to our roles, our sacred roles. So essentially, this is why we have the shift in colors, and the logotype represents the sandal of the Prophet, peace be upon him, which is reflection of us walking the path of Futuwwah is to walk the path of the Prophetic Sunnah, which is important because Futuwwah is grounded in Sunnah and Qur'an. You can also see Futuwwah written in Arabic calligraphy. And then for the men, we have the sword of Ali, which is an interesting metaphor for the chivalrous warrior, the chivalrous Muslim warrior, which is a warrior who both does the inner fight, which is the jihad al-nafs, and that's why the sword of Ali, radiallahu anhu, is double-edged. So the first edge is to fight your inner war, the jihad al-nafs, to break your nafs. And the other edge represents to protect your community, to protect your family, to protect the ummah, which is self-defense. So this is the symbol for the Futuwwah Academy of Sacred Manhood. And of course, the Futuwwah Academy of Sacred Womanhood has similar metaphors, but a slightly shift. We changed the sword with the flower instance. And this flower represents a flower that we call for a tulip, right? And the tulip in the Persianate culture sphere, we call the tulip for two words, either lale or golband. Lale in the Persianate culture sphere is also referred to as the flower of Allah. Why is this referred to as a flower of Allah? Is because lale has the same letters as Allah, alif lam. So in the Persianate culture sphere, they used to call lale the flower of Allah due to this. And obviously it's also a very beautiful flower, isn't it? And there is another name for it in Farsi, which is golband. And during the Ottoman era, the Ottomans were very, they loved this flower, the golband, the lale. And they used to decorate their turbans with the lale, with the golband. And the name of the Ottoman turban comes from golband. So the word golband, when the Turks started to utilize it, they made the word golband Turkified, you can say, and it became turban. So golband, turban, same word. So the whole name of the Ottoman turban comes from golband, tulip, right? And then what happens is that the Europeans, they were very, mesmerized by the flower of lale and golband, and they took that from the Turks and from the Ottomans, and they call it for tulip, or in Swedish or other Anglo North Germanic language, we call it tulpan. So turban and tulpan is very similar. So we try to reflect upon what could be a good motive for sacred womanhood, and we chose this beautiful flower. And it's also quite interesting that the tulip or tulpan or tulpan, there are different words of saying this in different European languages, has a connection to our Muslim cultural heritage through the turban. Sorry, through the turban of. Sorry, did you guys? Let me just go back to. Just 1 second, dear brothers and sisters. I had some issues here. 1 second, brothers and sisters. All right. So I hope you guys see my screen. Do you guys see my screen? Sister Daniel, do you guys see my screen?
Yes, we can, brother.
Yeah, thank you so much. So essentially, it's quite interesting that you can see that connection between the golband and the lale and the tulpan or tulip or tulpan, that is a flower that we see in Europe today. And there is a connection with the Ottoman heritage through the turban of the Ottomans and through the Islamic cultural heritage. So what is the etymological and historical background of Futuwwah? So let's reflect upon the name. So the word Futuwwah is derived from haya, meaning to be young, and faya, related to being a young man. Additionally, fetan refers to a group of males, while fata signifies the age between early teens and manhood. And in Arabic, Futuwwah is related to the ethics and embodies the highest level of ethics practiced by the Prophet, peace be upon him. It is considered the highest level of moral and sages, emphasizing perfecting one's ethical conduct based on the guidelines of Allah and the Prophet, peace be upon him. So what is the historical background of Futuwwah? First and foremost, Futuwwah, through the prophetic model, explores the necessity of returning to the prophetic model of manhood, contrasting in with the toxic things that has been afflicted on masculinity and also femininity, as we speak about sacred womanhood, which is prevalent in today's society. It advocates for qualities often overlooked in modern definitions of masculinity, emphasizing responsibility, emotional intelligence, and adherence to noble character traits. It's also grounded in the Islamic tradition. So Futuwwah emerges as a solution in a world lacking healthy role models, offering guidance rooted in Islamic tradition, right? So we as Muslims, we believe that tradition is key, right? We need to ground ourselves in our tradition, right? So it addresses the suppression of emotions and advocates for a holistic approach to education that integrates both the mind, body, heart, and the soul, right? And actually, when we speak about Futuwwah, we used to have Futuwwah guilds all over the Muslim world. And this is something we're going to read about in Imam Dawud's book, inshallah. But they were also Futuwwah guilds actually for sisters and for females, where they got this holistic education to become sacred women. So during the medieval era, for instance, in the Anatolian region of the Ummah, the Bayan Rumi, which was influenced by the Akhizm, which was the brotherhood, the Futuwwah brotherhood, they focused these guilds on fostering women's development through, for example, economical solidarity, social unity, bravery, and generosity, echoing the ideals of tasawwuf and Futuwwah, emphasizing moral virtues and communal welfare. These guilds were called Bayan Rumi. Bayan means women in Turkish, and Rumi means the women of Rome, right? There is also a legacy of solidarity within the Futuwwah, conceptualization and the guilds. So the Bayan Rumi and the Akhis, the brothers, they left a lasting legacy of solidarity, generosity, and moral integrity, shaping the history of Anatolia and the Ottoman Empire, for example, with these noble ideals and actions. So understanding the Futuwwah essence, understanding Futuwwah's essence, right? The importance here is to reflect upon moral character and interactions. So we will speak a lot in the book reading, dear brothers and sisters, about transitions to adulthood, which is rites of passages, right? Inauguration processes that has been a key in all traditional societies and bringing males and females into sacred manhood and womanhood, right? So Futuwwah embodies moral character in interactions with others and preventing harm, particularly during the transitions from childhood to adulthood. Hence the rites of passages and inauguration processes, emphasizing forgiveness, kindness to enemies, and detachment from worldly attachments while striving towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is not just about transforming a boy into a man or a girl into a woman, but also about allowing them to have chivalry and noble character, emphasizing physical training and developing a noble character and akhlaq, which is spiritual chivalry, right? So understanding the elements of Futuwwah is crucial for us as the Futuwwah Academy of Sacred Manhood and Sacred Womanhood. And the 5 elements of Futuwwah, which we will build our curriculums as we will establish Futuwwah academies, local academies all over the world, is based upon the 5 elements of Futuwwah, dear brothers and sisters. So what is the 5 elements of building a Futuwwah curriculum, building a holistic Futuwwah circle, building a Futuwwah guild, which we will do through our local Futuwwah academies? The 5 elements are working with adab, working with ilm and knowledge, working with sacred sunnah disciplines and sports like grappling, archery, swimming, wrestling, horseback riding, khidmah and service, and also to work with craftsmanship, to learn a trade, to learn to work with your hand as a way to provide for your family, all right? And all of these things will give you spiritual strength, emotional strength, psychological strength, and bring you into wholesomeness and to embody a holistic notion of being a man. And the same for women. We will also work with building curriculums for sisters and women. Some of the elements will be the same, and some of the elements will be unique for sisters, but the 5 elements is something that is universal in many sense. So this is why the Futuwwah Academy will strive to build a curriculum which is not reductionistic, which is something we see in the curriculums of the West today, which is very detached from the spiritual notion of men and women, rather integrating the spiritual notion, which is innate for our fitra. So what is the mission and vision statement of the Futuwwah Academy of Sacred Manhood and Sacred Womanhood? So the mission statement is dedicating ourselves to fostering awareness and providing resources to initiate individuals into the path of sacred masculinity and sacred femininity rooted in Qur'an and Sunnah and in the tradition of Futuwwah. We aim to instill a sense of sacredness in males and females, allowing them to embrace their roles with reverence and responsibility in accordance with Quranic principles and the Sunnah. And our vision is to cultivate a global community where individuals experience a sense of belonging to the sacred tradition of Futuwwah, counteracting the toxicity that has been afflicted on masculinity and femininity, promoting masculinity and femininity purified by Futuwwah, and fostering balanced relationships and families rooted in ethics and sacredness. Dear brothers and sisters, we don't believe that masculinity and femininity is toxic. This is the notion of the West. We believe that there is toxicity that has been afflicted on masculinity and femininity, but these toxicity comes from culture, not from religion and not from masculinity in its fitraic disposition. In a fitri disposition, masculinity and femininity is sacred and pure. So it's very important to highlight that. All right, sacred manhood and sacred womanhood, redefining masculinity. So sacred manhood is about embodying the values and virtues prescribed by Islam and exemplified by the Prophet ﷺ, emphasizing strength, compassion, responsibility, humility, and nurturing healthy relationships, including marriage and family. Sacred womanhood is defined by the characteristics of female Sahabas and companions and the righteous women of the past, emphasizing traits such as patience, generosity, intelligence, and spiritual struggle, aiming to embody the sacred roles and complementarity within the framework of Futuwwah. And as I mentioned before, there are 5 key elements of Futuwwah. So all of the curriculum that we will build in the Futuwwah Academy will be based upon these 5 elements, right? Ilm, knowledge, emphasizes the integration of knowledge into one's character and actions, combining theoretical learning with practical application, embodying the wisdom of Qur'an and Sunnah. And then we have adab, etiquette, involves controlling one's emotions, cultivating virtues, and exhibiting grace in interactions, navigating life with humility, generosity, and compassion. Khidmah, service, instills the values of selflessness and community engagement, fostering a sense of responsibility towards society and nurturing a spirit of cooperation and solidarity. And then Sunnah disciplines encompass the physical practices that align with the prophetic tradition, maintaining physical fitness and cultivating discipline, resilience, and mindfulness. And last but not least, craftsmanship emphasizes the value of practical skills and creative expression, enabling individuals to contribute to the enrichment of society. So these are the 5 elements of Futuwwah that we will integrate in all of our curriculums, inshallah. So what lies ahead, dear brothers and sisters? So first and foremost, welcome again to the study circle. My name is Seyed Jamaluddin Miri. For you who do not know me, I am a co-founder and executive director of ISIP, the International Students of Islamic Psychology, and the Futuwwah Academy of Sacred Manhood and Sacred Womanhood is an ISIP affiliated initiative. So in my role as licensed counselor and Islamic psychology practitioner, I've been working with issues connected to very much young boys going astray. I live partially in Sweden, but I do have a base in Malaysia and Turkey as well. But I see in the West that many Muslim boys and males, unfortunately, in their teenage years, they go astray due to different reasons. And we will reflect upon these reasons when we read the book of Imam Dawud, inshallah. One of the reasons being that there is no male role models, and there is also a sense of disconnection from community. And through popular culture, we can find a lot of toxic notions of how to be a man, or that has affected a lot of young boys and males. So for instance, gang violence amongst young boys and males is quite prevalent in the Western Hemisphere, specifically in continental Europe. And that's why we have for many years tried to utilize Futuwwah as a way to bring these young boys and males into sacred masculinity and manhood. So our thoughts in the Futuwwah Academy, based upon our experiences, and I've been traveling in many places of the world, speaking with many brothers and sisters who have done similar Futuwwah initiatives. Our thought is to learn from each other's initiatives, build resources, collect resources, and through establishing local Futuwwah academies in different cities and different countries, help, for instance, teenage boys and girls through resources, through healthy role models, to get a sense of responsibility by seeing their biological disposition, not only as a biological disposition, but also spiritual disposition, which also aims to foster and cultivate virtues as you do your spiritual wayfaring. So we want to emphasize that masculinity is not only something biological, it's also something spiritual. The same goes with femininity, because to be a male and a female is just a biological disposition. To become a man and a woman is to cultivate that biological disposition and refine it so that it becomes a spiritual disposition as well. And we want to do that through different task forces, curriculum development, workshops, book clubs, interventions, both socially and psychologically. We want to build retreats, both intergenerational retreats, and also retreats that are connected to specific age groups. We want to do specific works for sacred manhood and specific works for sacred womanhood. We want to utilize Futuwwah to work with everything from marriage counseling to tarbiyah and child education, and also to bring Futuwwah into the school curriculum as a way to instill virtues both in boys and girls, and males and females, and men and women. So there is a lot of different task forces that the organization committee of the Futuwwah Academy is currently establishing. And we will invite all of you to join our different task forces as active members and project managers so that we jointly and collectively can develop initiatives related to Futuwwah, inshallah. We're also going to have an inaugural ceremony later this year where we will officially release Futuwwah Academy. Our website will be released, our social media handles will be released. So there's a lot of things that is in store, and we will love if you guys would like to join the Futuwwah Academy and join this international movement of rooted revival related to sacred masculinity and femininity. So as I mentioned, we as Futuwwah Academy want to offer workshops, seminars, curricula development projects, and retreats to instill a sense of sacredness in males and females, allowing them to embrace their roles with reverence and responsibility in accordance with Qur'anic principles and the Sunnah. This is our main goal. And this is only the foundation. And together as a team and as a movement, dear brothers and sisters, we will build the academy and expand, inshallah. All right. So before we start, by listening actually to Imam Dawud Walid's welcoming message to all of us who are joining this book club, dear brothers and sisters, we would like you guys to join our WhatsApp groups. My colleagues, Brother Shoaib and Sister Fatima, Sister Dani will share the group in the Zoom chat, the link in the Zoom chat. That's where we will inform you guys about everything that is related to both the book club and the study circle, but also with regards to Futuwwah Academy generally. So if you guys want to join the academy and be active members or project managers, we will also announce how you guys can join. We also have a group solely for brothers. That group will be shared. We will also create a group solely for sisters. That link will be shared in our WhatsApp groups later today or tomorrow. And we also have a group for general information which is open for both brothers and sisters. This will be also shared in the Zoom chat and in the WhatsApp groups. And as I mentioned before, we have a lot of things going on, and you guys are now part of our first halaqah, which will be an ongoing halaqah. All right, let me stop sharing my screen and let me now move forward to the next part of our first reading session, which is actually also introduction of the whole Futuwwah Academy. And this is for us to listen to a welcoming message from Imam Dawud Walid, inshallah. So allow me to share my screen. Just 1 second, brothers and sisters. There you go. So let me just make it full screen. So do you guys hear? Do you hear? Does it sound good, brothers and sisters?
Yes, brother.
Yes.
Oh, okay, very good. Thank you so much. So as I mentioned, the author of the book of Futuwwah on Raising Males into Sacred Manhood is Imam Dawud Walid, one of the great scholars of our contemporary era. I am very honored to have him as my own teacher. And he is also an advisory board member of the Futuwwah Academy of Sacred Manhood and Sacred Womanhood. And he is sending his salams and greetings to you all. And in this introduction, he will speak a little bit about why he wrote the book and what we can benefit from the reading of the book as well. So, Bismillah.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين حمدا كثيرا طيبا مباركا فيه وأفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم على سيدنا ونبينا وحبيبنا وعظيمنا محمد الأمين وعلى آله الطاهرين وصحبه الطيبين وتابعين لهم بخير إحسان إلى يوم الدين وعلينا معهم وفيهم برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين يا أرحم الراحمين يا أرحم الراحمين. فرج عن المسلمين اللهم أعنا على ذكرك وشكرك وحسن عبادتك. And beloved brothers and sisters in Islam, I welcome you all to this introduction in regards to your reading the book Futuwwah and Raising Males into Sacred Manhood for your book club and for your discussions. I think it's important to start off, number one, why I decided to write this book, which I touched upon that in the introduction, which you will get to inside the book. And also, touch on what I think are a couple of salient takeaways that maybe weren't stressed in the book as much, but I think it's important for us to understand and factor these in as you all are reading and discussing the book. The first of all is, I'm in my early 50s. And so I was born in the 1970s. And I remember a time in America and in the West in general in which there was a different portrayal of masculinity. And even the expectations of males at that time were different than what they've grown to be in the latter part of the 20th century, coming into this particular era right now. And what we have experienced is a waning of traditional manhood amongst males. And there are several factors to this. One is the ease and convenience of what some would call modernity in the West, meaning that we don't really have to go through a lot of rigor for our daily needs anymore as men. Instead of going hunting, going fishing, now people don't even have to go to the grocery store. They can get Uber Eats or DoorDash, have their food delivered, already pre-cooked, not even have to drive to a restaurant to get it. There is the sedentary lifestyle that many of us live where there's not as much physical activity or rigor. People are very comfortable sitting at their desk, not doing as much physical activity on a day-to-day basis. And then there is the issues of the sexual and gender confusion movements that have made people even question what is the definition of a man, making distinctions between sex and gender. Can somebody be born supposedly a female, but she feels like a man trapped inside? And if that's the case, what defines a man? So we live in an age of confusion, an age in when males lack the rigor that they used to, even in my generation, in comparison to those who are millennials. And there are studies that have been done on the decreasing of testosterone levels amongst males, about how the testosterone levels of young men are lower than when I was a young man 30 years ago. So even the vitality and the vigor of males is not what it used to be, based upon a number of factors, societal, dietary, and other factors. So we need a revival of sacred masculinity amongst Muslims. and especially us Muslims who are in the West. And as we know, colonizers and colonists tried their best to break down traditional ways of being, traditional ways of learning in the Muslim world, sought to institute a Western style of education. I don't mean in content, I mean in the actual pedagogy and the means. And we in the West, they have been influenced by these things that started in the Muslim world during colonialism. Then we live in these lands. We need a real revival and return to our spiritual tradition. And this includes how to define masculinity according to a prophetic sense, and what do we do in our tarbiyah, not just in our homes, but also in a communal sense to raise up and revive traditional sacred masculinity. Of course, we know that the best model of manhood is Al-Habib al-Mustafa Muhammad salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi rashidin. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said of him, لَقَدْ كَانَ لَكُمْ فِي رَسُولِ اللَّهِ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ لِمَنْ كَانَ يَرْجُو اللَّهَ وَالْيَوْمَ الْآخِرَ وَذَكَرَ اللَّهَ كَثِيرًا. Most certainly, we have given you a most excellent example in the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, or whoever's hope is in Allah on the last day and makes dhikr of Allah often, remembers Allah often. And of course, this Uswatun Hasana is a beautiful example for males and females, for males and women, but in the perfection of this Uswatun Hasana on a social level, women cannot embody this. Women are going to come short. Why? Because Rasulullah Adam sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was a man. And all men are males. All males are not men, but females can never be men. So a woman can never be a husband. Even if she tries to fill in that role, she can never be a father. Even if she tries to fill in that role, she'll never know how it means to be a son or an uncle. So there is something that is, we won't call it deficient, but it's something that this is a fadl that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given men over women in this particular sense. And it is an opportunity, and it also can be a demerit if not used and cultivated properly. So this is one thing. Everything returns back to this complete example. As far as socially, also as relates to ta'aleem, instruction, and all aspects of life, physical activity, grappling, archery, etc. So this is one point. So keep in mind that everything, and even the personalities that are pointed to in this book, they all are based upon a chain of spiritual transmission related to masculinity, going back to Al-Habib sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sahbihi rashidin wa sallam. The spiritual transmission which went to the likes of Sayyidina Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu an, Sayyid al-Fityan, Ba'da Rasulillahi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, the master of the Fityan, of the chivalrous young people, after the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and to the likes of Salman al-Farisi, Ridwanullahi ta'ala alayhi, and going through successive generations from the likes of Al-Hasan al-Basri and to the likes of Al-Hasan ibn Ali, Al-Hussein ibn Ali, and the spiritual transmission that took place, Uwais al-Qarani, etc. To the likes of Sheikh Abdul Qadir al-Jilani, and have reached us today through men who have embodied this tradition. Now, why is this book important? Keep in mind, there's two reasons for you to think about. Be you a young man striving to be a better man, be you a father who's trying to improve himself, but also being a part of the rearing up of your sons or other males in your family, but also to the ummah. So as we conclude with this, we will say that, number one, we need to strive to be the best that we can be as men. Why? For the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and this trust that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us as giving us our souls and giving us these bodies in the personage of being men, in which there are Shari'i responsibilities that we seek to fulfill, right? And the Shari'i responsibilities for men and women, some of them are same, but there are certain exceptions that women are given on certain instances, like prayer, for instance, depending on certain conditions. And there are certain responsibilities that men have according to the Sharia, the sacred law, that women don't have, right? And we will be judged based upon how we fulfill these responsibilities. So therefore, we need to try to be the best men that we can be. Beyond this, the ummah needs us to be real men. And let me conclude with this point. During the First Crusade, and we see the genocide is going on in Palestine and in Gaza in particular, it is mentioned by historians that what's taken place in the first 10 months of the genocide in Gaza, in a week when the Crusaders came in Jerusalem, more people were killed. And we're talking about no smart bombs, no drones, no snipers. We're talking about people who were killed in Al-Quds not with guns, but with swords, spears. And from this time, a great revival in Islam began. It's under the time of the Sultan of the Abbasi leader, An-Nasr al-Din-Allah. And this was the beginning of the formalization of the Futuwwah guilds. And of the likes of one of the greats in this time was, and in Baghdad in particular, Sheikh Abdul Qadir al-Jilani al-Hanbali radiyallahu anhu, who also authored a book that's been printed now manuscript, but it was in a manuscript form called Kitab al-Futuwwah, the Book of Sacred Chivalry. And Sidi Abdul Qadir al-Jilani al-Hanbali radiyallahu anhu had a madrasa in which he was raising these young men up, teaching them adab, mannerisms, etiquettes, teaching fiqh, teaching the sciences of the purification of the inward self, and embodying the adab, living the fiqh, and exemplifying altruism. And through those young men who went through that tarbiyah, some of them went out into the ribat. A number of these young men, when they became older, these are the people who joined Salahuddin al-Ayyubi, the people who went directly through the tarbiyah of Sheikh Abdul Qadir Jilani were part of the army of Salahuddin al-Ayyubi that were able to get back Jerusalem from the Crusaders. And what's interesting is if we read the books of Sheikh Abdul Qadir Jilani, and then one of his students, who's a Hujjah in the Hanabila, Muwafiq al-Din ibn Qudama al-Maqdisi, radiallahu an, you don't see any mention of crusades in their writing or al-Quds being occupied, because they were working on fixing the inward selves of the males to become real men. Once that inward self was refined and was worked upon from enough males that became real men, then that problem of al-Quds was taken care of, bifadlillahi tabaraka wa ta'ala. And for the ummah to be relieved of the calamities that take place, it is the fakir's belief that this relates directly back to where we at in regards to this issue of futuwwah, of working to be better men, of ridding ourselves from arrogance, ridding ourselves of envy, ridding ourselves of stinginess and selfishness, because real men are supposed to be selfless, not selfish. And through this type of tarbiyah, through refining adab, through learning sacred knowledge, from becoming physical fit and being involved in the sacred physical activities, through our khidmah, through our service to others, and through our learning how to do something for ourselves, and especially with our hands, that through this development of these 5 different aspects, I believe that we can be a force for good of serving humankind, and with Allah's permission, be involved in relieving calamities and oppression that's taking place to the ummah of al-Habib al-Mustafa Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam taslim kathira. Bi'idhnillah ta'ala, the fakir will join you at another time in regards to this book reading endeavor. And with that, we conclude, and we ask Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to raise up all of our maqamat, all of our spiritual stations. We ask Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to take away any shreds of cowardice inside of ourselves, al-jubn, and make us be courageous men, men of moral clarity, men that don't go too far to the right and be reckless, nor too far to the left and be cowardly, but make us have true courage. We ask Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us beneficial knowledge, and we seek refuge with Him from knowledge which has no benefit. We ask Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to increase us in love for Him, in love for His Habib, Muhammad, salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi wa ala alihi, and for His spiritual inheritors and the likes of Ali ibn Abi Talib, and Salman al-Farisi, and Uwais al-Qarani, and Hassan al-Basri, and the likes of these men that come up through the likes of Mawlaya Idris and Mawlaya Idris al-Azhar and the Maghrib, and for the likes of those beloved people like Imam Ahmed al-Muhajir, who went to Hadramaut, and to the likes of other spiritual successors, Mu'inuddin Chisti, and the likes of other great awliya. We ask you, Ya Allah, to make us love them and to take on some of their noble traits of manhood in them following al-Habib al-Mustafa Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتوب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم والحمد لله رب العالمين.
Jazakallah khairan. Let me stop sharing my screen again. We thank Imam Dawud Walid for this beautiful opening remarks and blessing us with his presence, even though not right now here. He took his time to record this beautiful message to us as a reminder why we are reviving Futuwwah into this contemporary era. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless our gathering here and to bless our readings of His book. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow us through His book to revive the sacred notions of sacred masculinity and sacred femininity, inshallah. So thank you to Imam Dawud Walid for blessing us with his presence. Thank you for giving out of your time to record this welcoming message. And thank you for writing this book. And we are grateful that Allah has used you as a vessel, dear Imam, so that we can learn from the sacred tradition through your scholarly endeavors. We appreciate that a lot. Jazakallah khairah. All right, my beloved brothers and sisters. Just one thing before we go through the next phase of this introduction session. During the summer, I had the honor to travel a lot. I've been in Turkey, Australia, Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia, and Egypt, doing lectures in Futuwwah and other aspects related to Islamic psychology, meeting a lot of ISIP's local and regional chapter. And alhamdulillah, by the grace of Allah, we're establishing our Futuwwah Academy in Australia and Malaysia and Indonesia, also in Palestine, thanks to our beloved brothers and sisters who are, mashallah, very thorough and they're organizing and doing an amazing job. And I met a lot of brothers who are doing Futuwwah initiatives and sisters who are interested in Futuwwah initiatives. And I was so inspired by many of the brothers and sisters that I met. So for those who are here today, I want to thank your presence. So Hakim Sensei, Sister Shanti, Brother Ridwan, also to Brother Ahmed, and to many other brothers that I met in Australia, Sidi Omar, and also in Egypt, Brother Mahmoud, and also in Palestine, Brother Muhammad and Sister Raja, and also Sister Hadid in Egypt, and also in Turkey with Brother Ali and Sister Zahra and rest of the team. I appreciate all of you doing amazing underwork, and also Brother Aman from Malaysia, and Brother Zain from Malaysia, and many of these beautiful brothers and sisters from Malaysia, Indonesia, Sister Anisa, Sister Francesca, Sister Asma, for your amazing underworks. So we see that there is a huge interest in the revival of Futuwwah into our contemporary era. And I hope that through Futuwwah Academy, we can together collectively work for the aim of bringing the antidote of the crisis that Imam Dawud is referring to both in his talk and also in his book, and that we can ground ourselves again in our sacred tradition of how to be a man, as Imam Dawud said, a selfless man rather than a selfish man, and obviously a selfless man rather than selfish man. So, brothers and sisters, I'm going to share my screen again, and this time we're going to go through a little bit about the reading schedule, all right, so that you guys can be a little bit updated on how we're going to conduct the book club, inshallah. So let me share my screen again. I hope you guys see my screen, and inshallah, this will be our tentative reading schedule. So we will meet every Sunday, just to ground ourselves in what is Futuwwah through readings and studying different material, literature, and books, inshallah. Today is the first session, and in this document that you find in the resource sharing folder that we have emailed to all of you who registered for the circle, but also you can find it in the group description in the WhatsApp group of the Futuwwah Academy Study Circle Book Club. You will find this reading schedule as well. So today we will go through the foreword and the author's preface, and next week we will read the introduction, and then as you guys see, for each week we will read one chapter in the book. And it's not long chapters, it's not huge chapters. It's about 10 pages reading every week. We recommend you guys to read before each session, if possible. If not, then you can also read after the session. If you do not have access to the book, dear brothers and sisters, then we will read the book together during the session. I have the book here with me as a soft copy, so I will share my screen, and then we will do joint readings and joint text reflections. Nevertheless, we highly recommend you guys to buy the book, and you can buy the book through the book publishing house, which is the Imam Ghazali Institute. The link to where you can buy the book is also emailed to you all, and you can find the link in the WhatsApp group description as well. So we highly recommend you guys to buy it, whether you want to buy it as a hard copy or a soft copy. There is a soft copy version as well that you can buy and use. I think there is a Kindle version, if I'm not mistaken, all right? So these are the tentative readings that we will do. Each week we will read a chapter. On the 22nd of Sunday, we will not have any session. Then that will be a week where we would like you guys to reflect upon the reading and do some journaling. And then we will continue the reading. And hopefully the khatm of the book will be Sunday, the 19th of January. And inshallah, we will ask if Imam Dawud will be able to join us in the khatm live and in person. That will be such an honor. Nevertheless, the khatm of the book will be Sunday, the 19th of January, hopefully, inshallah. And then we will also try to do a summary of the book as well and which insights we have gained by reading the book, inshallah. So after this book reading, after that we're done with the reading of Imam Dawud's book, then we will continue reading other books, inshallah. So this is an ongoing halaqah. The next book that we will read will be the book of Futuwwah, written by Dr. Recep Şentürk, who is also one of the great scholars of Futuwwah in our contemporary era. And that we will continue after this book, inshallah. And then we will continue reading many manuscripts, both from contemporary scholars like Imam Dawud and Dr. Recep, but also scholars of our tradition like Imam Qushayri, Ibn Sulami, Abdul Qadir Jilani, and many other scholars of our sacred tradition, inshallah. All right, so this document you guys have access in the folder that we have shared the link in the WhatsApp group. Let me now share another document to all of you, just so you guys, I'm actually gonna go through the folder, the resource folder that we have for the book club, inshallah, just for you guys to be able to navigate yourselves. So this is the folder where you will find all of the recordings. So for each session, we will record the session as well. We will add the recordings of the sessions in this folder, which is titled Recordings. The reading schedule document that I just shared with you guys, dear brothers and sisters, you find also in the folder. We also have the welcoming message to all of you, where you can find a little bit more information about the Futuwwah Academy, the ISIP, the book club, why the study circle, where to buy the book, etc. You will find in this document, which is called Welcome. And then we also have some feedback form and some registration links. So please navigate yourself in this folder. And by the way, I would like to share another slide briefly before we start the reading, dear brothers and sisters. Actually, I want to go back to the document that I previously shared, because I forgot to share, to mention one thing there. Just 1 second, dear brothers and sisters. So essentially in the reading schedule, in the end of it, we also have added some journaling that we would like you guys to do for each session. All right. So for each chapter, we would like you guys to reflect a little bit about the chapter, personal reflections that we would like you guys to, for example, share in the WhatsApp group or in our reading sessions live as well, whether it's through the Zoom chat or if you unmute yourself, inshallah. You can share your reflections of the different chapter based upon the method that you like most when it comes to expressing yourself. You can use prose, you can use poetry. So we would like to know more about your thoughts, inspirations, insights, solutions, resolutions in relationship to each chapter that you read. So we have divided all the chapters here. So we will highly recommend you guys to do this as a way to reflect and embody the knowledge that we're reading, inshallah. All right, dear brothers and sisters, I think that is it for now. If you guys have any questions briefly, please feel free to just raise your hands and I can address some of them. I will be with you guys throughout the whole journey, inshallah, reading together with you guys and also facilitating the text reflections. And we will always allow you guys to unmute yourself when you have any questions, but just raise your digital hands before, because we're quite a lot of people right now in this session, which is amazing. We appreciate all of your contribution, dear brothers and sisters. As we always say, you're all sources of knowledge, dear brothers and sisters. I know many of you, and I know many of you have been practicing Futuwwah for many years, and many of you are experts in Futuwwah. So we're very honored for you guys to join us today, inshallah. So just raise your digital hand and we will unmute you so that you can ask questions, inshallah. All right. So without any further ado, before we start the reading, we will start now to read briefly the foreword of the book. Is there any questions with regards to what we have stated so far. Feel free to raise your digital hands, and I'm happy to address any questions, inshallah. All right, it seems very clear. All right, so then let me share my screen now so we can start the reading, inshallah. Just 1 second. All right.
Brother Jamaluddin, we have one question in the chat box.
Okay, could you please address it, Brother Shuaib?
So Hadil is asking, I know that we are trying to instill fatwa for young teens and young people, but what about the adults? Is it too late for them? Can you do something for them?
Thank you so much, Sister Hadid, for this very important question. It's never too late to instill Futuwwah. Futuwwah is something intergenerational as well. Even though we speak about young boys and girls, which is partially one of the focus areas, we do believe in intergenerational approaches towards Futuwwah. And essentially, it's never late to walk into the sacred path and suluk and spiritual wayfaring, which is Futuwwah, by the way. So you can be in which age category, and you can still embody and internalize the concepts and the virtues of Futuwwah. So no, it's never too late. And we, as the Futuwwah Academy, we will work intergenerationally as well, inshallah. This is one of our ambitions, inshallah, because we believe that in the modern world, we have lost contact with the intergenerational interactions. Historically, we used to learn from our elders and from our family leaders. It used to be a bond between the aunties and the uncles and the grandmothers and the grandfathers and the grandchildren and the youth. Today, we don't see this bond as much anymore, and we want to instill this bond, because as we have a proverb in many cultures around the world, it takes a village to raise a child. We definitely believe that the leaders of the village, which is often the elders, are sources of wisdom. And as we also know through our tradition as Muslims, the age of wisdom comes, perhaps in the 40s. And that's why it's important to have this intergenerational connection, so that we can learn from different age groups and in different stages of life. So the intergenerational connection is also a revival that we want to do, because today we have unfortunately disconnect ourselves from the intergenerational. We're rather intra-generational. That's why a lot of young boys are being organized without any proper elder, masculine, male, sacred role models. And that's partially because of the disruption of the intergenerational interaction, inshallah. So we will definitely work with that. Thank you, Sister Hadid, for your question. Is there any other questions, Brother Shuaib or Sister Fatima?
No, brother.
Okay. Very good. So we'll start with the reading, brothers and sisters. When we do halaqas, we would like you guys to read. I'm not going to read. I'm going to ask you guys to read. So before we start, do you guys see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, very good. So we're going to read it forward briefly. I'm mindful of the time. This was an introduction session, so next time we will start the reading quite immediately. But because we wanted to just introduce Futuwwah, listen to the to the welcoming greetings from Imam Dawud, and also for us to speak a little bit about the Futuwwah Academy's mission and vision statement. And we started the reading a little bit later today, but from next week we will start to read it quite directly, inshallah. All right. Anybody who would like to start reading the foreword?
Bismillah, I'll start, brother.
All right. What's your name, brother?
Rashid.
Welcome, brother.
Mutala.
If you can start to read, you can start to read, and I will say when you can stop, inshallah.
Forward. The early Muslims were renowned for the immense perseverance and steadfastness in the path of Islam, going through colossal amounts of hardship in Makkah and Medina that produced paragons of faith who would carry forth the religion of Islam after the death of the chosen one. Among them was the early companion Utbah ibn Ghazwan, one of the foremost military commanders in the Caliphate wars against Sassanid Persia. In a narration from the Shama'il Muhammadiyah of Imam al-Tirmidhi, he reminisces about those early days of Muslim struggle that made him the man he became. standing upon the pulpit, he preaches to his men. I was the seventh of 7 people to accept Islam with the Messenger of Allah. We had no food except for the leaves of trees that caused sores to develop around our mouths. I discovered a mantle and took it, splitting it between myself and Sa'd ibn Malik. There is none from the 7 of us except that he is now the leader of a city, and you will experience firsthand the rulers after us. This powerful throwback to harder times shows the appreciation the early Muslims had, the blessing of hardship and its preparatory role in nurturing strong and steadfast leaders. It functioned primarily as a form of primarily spiritual, but also physical initiation that produced a caliber of men upon which this tremendous faith could so securely depend.
Thank you, brother.
Now,
Thank you, brother.
standing in the frontiers of the
Brother,
Muslim land.
brother. Jazakallah khairan.
Barakallahu feekum.
Let's do some text reflections together, inshallah. And then you can continue reading, brother. You did an amazing job. Jazakallah khairan, brother Rashid.
Barakallahu feekum.
So I was thinking here a little bit about blessings and hardships as a way to become a strong leader. So we today speak a little bit about the curling generation, that the youths are not, they're not like quite independent. Perhaps they're getting too much nurture in a way that will not empower them to be independent. And with independent, we don't mean independent in a Western way, rather in a communal way, that you take leadership for your community, learn how to be a leader, etc. And the whole notion of how do we become strong men and women? Would you guys like to reflect a little bit about this passage and which learnings we can take from perhaps not being connected with nature, not being connected with our surroundings? Any reflections?
Yeah, brother, I'll try if I may.
Yes, brother Rashid. Then also, please, everybody, raise your digital hands, and then
Okay, next, inshallah.
You can start, and then we'll ask people to raise their hand. Please go
So,
ahead.
I would like to comment on this thing he said about they were on a journey, I think, and they had no food except for the leaves of tree that caused sores to develop around our mouth. It reminds me of what's happening in Palestine now, that the children's skins, due to insufficient intake of calories and vitamins, we're having things happening to them. But if you look carefully at what they did to overcome it, they went to naturopathic medication. He took a mantle, took it, split it between himself and Sa'd ibn Malik, and from those 7 people, everyone is a leader. And it shows that hardship makes people become leaders. Whereas if you have a soft bed of repose, if you have the thorns, you become a leader. If you have the roses as a bed, you are less likely to become a leader. Jazakallah khairan.
Barakallahu feekum. Jazakallah khairan, my beloved brother Rashid. Great reflections, mashallah. Brother, where are you from? Which country?
I'm South African from the UK. You remember speaking to me one day?
Yeah, I remember.
You wanted me to join something, to become a facilitator. That's me, brother.
Beloved brother, thank you so much for joining. I remember you, mashallah. You're such a beautiful brother. May Allah bless you for your knowledge and experience. Thank you for sharing, brother. We have also Sister Shireen raising your hand. Please, Sister Shireen, if you want to share any reflections briefly.
I do, thank you. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. For me, I guess my reflection was on a more personal level, how it spoke to me. And obviously I'm not a man, but the thing that resonated with me, and which I think is actually relevant perhaps to women, especially women who go through motherhood, is that there is still that feeling of hardship, physical hardship, emotional. It really tests your resilience, the process of carrying a baby and delivering a baby and bringing up a child, that I think actually maybe for the sisterhood, I don't know, I'd be interested to hear what other women feel who've gone through that experience, but it does test your resolve, your belief in yourself, your stamina, and it develops through that hardship, I think, levels of growth and patience that you didn't know you had. So for me, that was what resonated when that passage was read.
MashaAllah. Thank you so much, sister. And I appreciate your reading from a feminine point of view. That's very interesting, actually. MashaAllah. Very interesting. Thank you. Thank you so much. And I appreciate both of your inputs. So let's continue reading. Sister Shireen, would you like to continue reading from the passage where Brother Rashid ended? From here, now standing at the frontiers.
I can try. Now standing at the frontiers of the Muslim lands, outnumbered by Persian forces, our master Utbah makes it very clear why he is the man that Allah and his Caliph have chosen for this momentous feat. Utbah closes his sermon with a stark warning, making clear that the Muslims should treasure the rulership of these prophetically initiated men who would enter his presence as seekers and leave as beacons of guidance for those still lost in the dark. Yet, as they would slowly leave this earthly domain, their positions would be filled by egotistical tyrants whose materialistic greed would spell despair for those unfortunate enough to live under their oppressive rule. It may be argued that we are experiencing a recurrence of those rulers today, a specific symptom of the terminal decline of masculinity and the loss of initiation in the modern age.
All right, sister, thank you. Just brief reflections together jointly as well. So any reflections with regards to this passage, dear brothers and sisters? I was myself reflecting upon, for instance, what happened after the downfall of the Khalifa Rashidun and what made the Rashidun Caliphate unique. How can we revive it? These are some of the questions that came to my mind. Any answers, questions, all the reflections? If you guys could just raise your digital hands, brothers and sisters, so that we can give a chance for everybody to speak, and then we will definitely open up your microphones. So please raise your digital hands. All right, Brother Rashid again. MashaAllah, Brother Rashid. Let's go.
Brother, I thought of the very same thing as you did, that when the end of the Caliphate in Turkey came about, we had that Kemal Atatürk coming in and putting in his non-Islamic values, and the same values spread throughout the world, trying to contain Islam, trying to push it down into the gutter, trying to make the rulers, which is even continuing to a greater extent even now, as is seen in Gaza and other parts of the world, that Western imperialism and atheism, which they love to prefer to call humanism, which is actually the opposite of humanism, is now trying to make its imperial presence known throughout the world, and they're trying to do the Islamophobic best to try and depress and suppress us, but we mustn't allow that to happen. Jazakallah khairan.
Jazakallah khairan. Appreciate your feedback. Any other reflections, brothers and sisters? We would like to hear more voices, please. Brother Rashid, may Allah bless you. Your reflections are tremendously good. Alhamdulillah. Any other? You can also write in the chat, brothers and sisters, and we will address them, inshallah. What I was thinking about is probably also like the importance of being connected to a chain of knowledge. The Khalifa Rashidun, they all received the tarbiyah through the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? So they were all, embedded with the prophetic tradition by learning directly from him. And that if we want to revive that sacred leadership, we need to reconnect with that tarbiyah. And that was probably why the first and second generation, which also the Prophet ﷺ said these are the best generation, isn't it? That they were all, very close to the prophetic tradition because they learned directly from the Prophet, many of them, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the importance of reconnecting to that, what is it to be an emir? It's to be a servant. It is to be selfless. It's to be the first in and the last out, And it's the diseases of modernity that has affected leadership role models is today that you're leader because of the nafs, you're leader because you want to see career, you're leader because you want to, do a career, climbing the stairs of the career and making more money, and it's very much infused by very materialistic means. But that's not the position of our traditional leaders. They were leaders because Allah chose them to be leaders, and they saw it as a burden and a responsibility, and they seek communal ways rather than nafsani ways. May Allah allow us to learn from our predecessors, inshallah. Let's move forward, inshallah. Any person who would like to read, or else I will ask Sister Shireen to continue. Sister Shireen, you can continue a little bit more with your permission.
Okay. The idea that the male must go through some sort of rite of passage is not a new nor uniquely Islamic phenomenon. Initiation is a process that transforms young, impulsive boys into sturdy, dependable men, and is ubiquitous in societies throughout human history. What form that initiation took would vary depending on the culture it was embedded in, and the Islamic world was no exception. Islam's unique quality of taking from the goodness of its surroundings and discarding anything disagreeable to its ethical, moral, and theological framework meant it developed its own uniquely indigenous form of masculine initiation. Pre-Islamic Arabian poetry is replete with references to the fatah, chivalric young man. In the pre-Islamic environment of a chaotic and fragile Bedouin existence, masculine strength and warriorship were strongly applauded, a sentiment readily co-opted by the early Muslims. The Chosen One states in an authentic narration that the strong believer is better and more beloved of Allah than the weak believer, while there is still goodness in both.
Thank you, sister. I would like us to reflect a little bit here as well. Thank you for reading in an excellent way, Sister Shireen. We really appreciate it. So here, if we reflect a little bit about this passage, we see that a lot of the pre-Islamic Arabic, even the Persian and Turkish, notions of being sacred or honorable was infused into the notion of Futuwwah. So there is an Islamization of knowledge process here, which is something that, of course, our amazing scholars from Malaysia, Sayyid Naqib al-Atas, for instance, speaks about. I would like you guys to reflect together with me, perhaps. Is there anything we can take from other cultures and Islamicize as something that we can utilize in Futuwwah? Because this is the way that many of our traditional practitioners of Futuwwah also did, as Islam was spreading all over the world back then. So any thoughts and reflections from you guys? And I'm seeing that you're raising your hand, Brother Rashid. I love you for the sake of Allah. I will definitely ask you to say something, but I would also like more voices to be heard as well. We want this to be a communal reading. So anybody who would like to reflect with me with regards to this? Don't feel shy, brothers and sisters. This is a space of learning together. So this is your space, inshallah. We will learn from each other. Anything in the chat, dear Brother Shoaib or Sister Fatima or Sister Dania?
Sir, please read the chat box. Sister Mariam and Ibrahim is saying something.
Okay, what are they writing?
Sister Mariam is telling I cannot unmute my mic, but my observation with the men around me in regard to this text, that some men tend to become leaders without realizing that they are in fact still seeker. They came forth with such a force of finality, when in reality much they need to understand and be open to.
Okay, thank you, Sister Mariam, for those reflections. So maybe we can try to see if there are any questions with regards to this. So Brother Rashid, you're raising your hand if you would like to reflect. Do you see any from other traditions that we can bring into the notion of Futuwwah? I know that when I spoke with many of our Malaysian brothers, I met many beautiful Malaysian brothers in Mukabah and our brothers and sisters there, and also in Pahlawan, which is an amazing organization. They were speaking a lot about some pre-Islamic notions of Futuwwah in the Malay world. And I remember when I spoke with Hakim Sensei and Sister Shanti, they were speaking about Futuwwah concepts in the Indonesian context. So is there anything you see from your cultural heritage that we can bring into the notion of Futuwwah and being chivalrous?
Well, I'd like to preface it by saying that even in the film or TV series Roots, you had Kunta Kinte, who was a Muslim, being initiated in his tribal Islamic Gambian method of initiation of that time into manhood. And even nowadays, you have, for want of a better word, a toxic initiation ceremony, which happens in Western culture, in universities, where they do all sorts of unusual, sometimes injurious methods of initiation to students. And that was what I had to say, but I couldn't think of anything else in regard to your question, just my 2 points I had before you even for the
Thank
question.
you. Thank you so much, Brother Rashid, for these great remarks. I agree. If you look at this fraternity groups that they have as, connected to the universities and colleges in the West, they have in our rites of passages of being a student, which is to drink alcohol and just go havoc. Even in the street gangs, they have rites of passages, which is quite toxic, you know, where they actually abuse a young boy, and he needs to really harden himself by accepting being hit and pushed and bullied by a bunch of you know, gang members. And if he is resilient enough, he will be able to join the gang. But what we can learn from this very unhealthy ways of you know, inauguration initiatives or rites of passages is that there's still something fitri that we all long for as men and women. We long to come into a group to build social cohesion. We long to, through rites of passages, come into a new stage in life. And rites of passages is, in a sense, a guidance and a path towards another state or another stage of life. So this is innate for us as human beings. It's part of our natural disposition, part of our, you know, fitri dispositions. So we can actually learn from this and say, you know what, this is innate, but we need to introduce something that is sacred, something that is healthy, which is the rites of passages that historically we could find in the Futuwwah guilds, for example. We have some more hands raised. Let me see here. Brother Usama, please go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum, Ustad.
MashaAllah, Brother Usama. How are you doing, brother? Nice to see you.
Nice to see you as well. Alhamdulillah, it's an amazing session. So far, so good. So I wanted to add about the Islamization of ideas of masculinity and chivalry, because throughout history, throughout different cultures, we have seen these concepts of these concepts emerging. Like in Greece, you have the concept of Hercules. In India, we had a king called Ashoka, and he also preached similar ideas of being an honorable, righteous person who goes out of his way, sacrifices himself for the sake of his family and society. So I feel like all of these things, they're rooted in the fitra, and that's where they come from. But they originally they are Islamic, because everything is coming from Adam alayhi salam, and then all the prophets that were sent to humanity throughout history, throughout different times. Yeah, I think Islamization of these modern concepts of masculinity is also important. When what we see in pop culture, in anime, in different genres, and what we should be focusing on is purifying these cultures and these ideas of all the negativity and toxicity that we're talking about, and purifying it and presenting an Islamic alternative of it.
MashaAllah, MashaAllah. Beautiful, Brother Usama. Thank you so much for sharing your vast amount of knowledge, mashallah. Brother Usama is a beautiful brother, by the way, dear brothers and sisters. I had the honor to meet him in Turkey, and he has joined the Futuwwah, will establish the Futuwwah Academy in India. So mashallah, we're very blessed to have such a beautiful brother like Brother Usama. And I agree with you. As you say, everything is Islamic in the end of the day, because everything comes from Adam alayhi salam and through his children, right? Through his progeny. So you're definitely right. What we would like to do, brothers and sisters, and we will invite you guys to help us with this and to do it collectively together. We want to collect resources from our traditions, both within Islamic tradition, but also outside. You know, it could be other cultural traditions where we live, or where we can see what is the notions of Futuwwah. Let's say I live in Sweden partially. So in the Viking culture, is there any notion of Futuwwah that we could Islamicize? And Brother Usama was speaking about the Indian culture, right? Or, you know, the stories of Hercules and all these, you know, stories from other traditions. So I would invite you all, dear brothers and sisters, together, that we start to collect these stories and these narratives and these resources and see how we can utilize them. You know, because if we want to do dawah with Futuwwah, with non-Muslims, for instance, let's say here in Scandinavia, if we can speak about the chivalrous Vikings, and by the way, a lot of the Vikings became Muslims. This is something that people do not know. A lot of the Vikings became Muslims. Then we can actually tell people that Futuwwah is very natural for your culture as well. And this can be an introduction for people to get to know Islam and Islamic tradition, and hopefully, you know, come into the realms of Islam, inshallah. So it's a good tool for inviting people as well to our beautiful religion, inshallah. So we invite you to be part of this collecting resources. All right, we don't have a lot of time, dear brothers and sisters. I'm mindful of that. So what we will do is that we will read a little bit from some parts of the foreword, and then I would like you guys to read this first chapter. It's not a chapter, the foreword, which is from page 7 to page 21 to next week. And you also could read the first chapter, which is the introduction chapter by Imam Dawud Walid, inshallah. And we will start reading the introduction. The foreword is just for us to ground ourselves. And it's written by Maulana. I had the honor to meet our beloved Maulana Asim Ayub. I met him last year in UK, actually. Beautiful, beautiful teacher and scholar. And I was quite impressed because they were doing a lot of activities in an organization where Maulana was active, which is called Karima Foundation, which is in a city outside of London, where they were combining, like, grappling with young boys with doing like lessons in Sirah and Hadith. And it was amazing to see. And what I noticed actually is when we combine different elements of the Futuwwah curriculum, for instance, if you combine grappling with reading, a lot of youths that might be diagnosed or might be treated as, you know, they have ADHD, they have issues in concentrating. As soon as they externalize a lot of their energy, they read and study so much more thoroughly. And that's why we invite you all within the Futuwwah Academy, when we, through our local academies, will start different Futuwwah initiatives that we combine the different elements, so that when we study, that we combine that with some physical exercise, and that allows all of us to embody the knowledge in a more precise way. So I would like us to read a little bit about the Futuwwah institutions here, page 9, just briefly. Let's read from this part. Let me see. All right. From composed of predominantly unmarried men. Could somebody read from here, please?
May I, brother, if there's nobody else?
Sister Asfia, would you like to read?
Yes, brother.
All right, go ahead. From composed of predominantly unmarried men.
Composed of predominantly unmarried men, these associations provided much needed social and economic welfare in an area filled with chaos amidst the debris of the collapsed Seljuk state. These were civic surrogates due to the lack of public institutions, ensuring that many young men in the area would not be sucked into the life of immoral self-destruction that was so pervasive at the time. The guilds and Sufi Futuwwah lodges also laid the strong foundation for many a political revival, with the Sufi lodge of Imam Abdul Qadir al-Jilani credited for the later conquest of Jerusalem at the hands of Salah al-Din al-Ayyubi, the Sufi warrior, a spiritually mature being more in control of himself than any opponent, can be seen in the early Muslims through the likes of Imam Abdullah ibn al-Mubarak all the way to the modern anti-colonial Sufi sage, Hafiz Umar Mukhtar. The spiritual systems of masculine initiations function to equip the Ummah with a strong masculine backbone that is conceptually sorry, I cannot see that. Conspicuously absent today. Spiritual renewal is not restricted to any one gender, but the medieval Islamic world recognized the importance of cultivating strong paragons of Islamic masculine chivalry to carry the inheritance of the Prophet to its next holder. I can see only that much.
Yeah, no problem, sister. You can read the final here. The decline of masculinity.
The decline of masculinity embodied by the Ummah of chosen ones since then has been startling.
Thank you so much, Sister Asfia. Really, really great reading. Jazakallah khairan, dear sister. So it will be very interesting for us to reflect a little bit about this, because traditionally in the Ottoman Empire and also in the Seljuk Empire, and what Maulana is saying here, which is very interesting, is that when the Seljuk Empire was about to fall, there was a lot of, fitna in the society, similar to the fitna that we're experiencing in our modern societies today, both in the West and in the East and in the South and the North, and both the Muslim and non-Muslim countries, right? And there the Futuwwah guilds became detrimental to keep the sanity of the society, you know, in many ways. It's quite interesting. So the people themselves built their institution, because when the government failed, then they built their own institution. Hence, they built these lodges and guilds. And they had different types of guilds, right? They had military fortress guilds, where a lot of people learned to become both spiritual warriors and also physical warriors. They had occupational guilds where people learn a trade and a work to be able to provide for their families. They took care of travelers and people in poverty. So the first soup kitchens that we today speak about came from the Futuwwahs, where they gave food for the poor and the needy. They also had guilds that were catering to the needs of those who needed more spiritual, guidance through a sheikh or through a murabbi. And they had obviously lodges. So this is also something that we can reflect upon. How can we revive this? And actually, Ibn Battuta says in this passage, Maulana is referring to Ibn Battuta, that when Ibn Battuta was traveling all over the world, Ibn Battuta is this great Moroccan traveler that traveled all around the world. He said, with regards to Futuwwah guilds in his memoirs and in his journals, that no people are more courteous to strangers, more readily supply them with good and other necessaries, and are more opposed to oppressors than they are, referring to the Futuwwah. And also that the Futuwwah provided a social and economical welfare in places of chaos, and that it was a system for unmarried men to not go astray and do things that are haram or that will create fitna. It's so beautiful. So how can we utilize this today, dear brothers and sisters? Any reflections? I think Sister Iman is raising your hand. Please go ahead if you want to share something, Sister Iman.
Oh no, City. I only raised my hand because I was keen on reading. Sorry, that was an accident.
Oh, I see. All right. Now, but please go ahead and read then. You can read. But before you start to read, Sister Iman, anybody who would like to reflect upon this? How can we revive these guilds? Like, why would it be important today to revive it?
My hand is up, brother.
All right, Brother Rashid, may Allah bless you.
I'm sorry that I have so much to say at my age of 70.
You're
Okay,
70
brother,
years
what
old.
I'd like to say, what I'd like to say, that nowadays we have the same guilds. You had the Freemasons, of which Kamal Ataturk was a member. You have the Friends of the Conservatives. You have the APAC in the USA. And all of these are actually anti-Islamic, Islamophobic organizations, which are trying to make sure that Islam does not gain the advent and the increase that it has in the world. They're all trying to do their utmost to try and lower Islamic flag, whereas we must make sure that by speaking out and by sharing even with non-Muslims on our WhatsApp groups, all the things which are being said about what's happening, especially in the Middle East, we should share it with Muslims and non-Muslims, more importantly, because how else will we let them know that there is an alternative history, like the Al Jazeera point of view, and then you have the right-wing BBC and the Sky News point of view and the CNN point of view.
Barakallah fikum. MashaAllah. This is really an intergenerational gathering. We have our Ustad Rashid. MashaAllah. Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you for your insights. There is a lot of great passages here, but of lack of time. I'm mindful that we're over time. So, brothers and sisters, if some of you need to leave, I totally understand. I can keep on a little bit more just for us to read a little bit more. Let's read from another part here. So, here, Sister Iman, could you start to read from Muslim communities here until, yeah, thank you. From Muslim communities, please.
Yes, of course. Muslim communities tend to be uniquely affected by this crisis, with their general working class nature in the UK amplifying the effects of the socio-economic causes further. Dr. Fawzia Ahmed, a London-based sociologist, has studied what some call the British Muslim spinster crisis. Muslim women have overtaken men in educational and professional life, and in a quest to stay true to their natural desire for socially superior spouses, are not finding men to be up to par. A cursory glance at crime figures in the UK shows disproportionate representation for Muslim men behind bars, and the recent unveiling of historic cases of grooming carried out by gangs of predatory men, who also happen to be Muslim, is more evidence of emerging problems within the Muslim male population. This disfigurement of masculinity spells disaster for Muslims, as small local communities and the larger global Muslim family are forced to rely on spiritually deformed men for leadership. The proposed solutions are as numerous as the symptoms, divided ideologically along polarized political lines. The left's insistence on blaming society for sculpting toxic qualities onto apparently blank canvases of androgyny, and the right's confinement of men to a singular, constricted, and angry stereotype of what it means to be a man are the two options available, neither of which is concordant with Islamic ethics. Regrettably, Muslim attempts to address the crisis of masculinity often take the form of wholesale adoptions of Western solutions without consideration of their ideological origins.
Thank you so much, Sister Iman, for reading such an excellent way. Appreciate it, sister. So it's very interesting here, and I would like to reflect with you guys, because this whole aspect of, for instance, spinster crisis. So Muslim women have overtaken men in education and professional life and not finding men to be up to par. There's very interesting reflection here. Maybe some sisters would like to reflect with us here. Anybody who has any reflection about this passage of reading? And how does this affect the nucleus of the Muslim family or the nucleus of the society? I know I see your Ustad Rashid, I see your hand. Inshallah, we will. I want you to say something. I would love to hear from some of the sisters. Any reflection, or brothers, by the way? Maybe I can start, and then okay, we have somebody. Let's see here. Let's say KH. I don't know what your name is, but I guess you have a flower on your picture, KH. What is your name, KH? Please tell us your name, sister.
My name is Khatim.
Oh, assalamu alaikum, sister. Go ahead, please.
So I was like reflecting on the part where the spinster crisis is. Just last week, my friends and I were talking actually about the case in India, where there was a lot of rape cases against women. And I was asking my friend, who happened to be from India. So I was asking her, why is this happening? Why are all these men raping all these women, doing harm to women? And what she said was quite striking to me. She said that at one point where we are trying to educate women, we are empowering women to be better educated, we forget the men. So, and I thought that was something significant, because you cannot empower one sex or one gender, and then you forget about the other, and then then we happen to have with all this crime against women and spinster women. So I just hope that won't happen again in the future, when we realize that this can happen when we only try to improve one side without the other.
SubhanAllah. So true. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to improve both genders, inshallah, and may Allah make it easy for all people that are suffering oppression or zulm. Thank you, sister, for sharing your reflections, very valuable reflections. I think from the aspect of modern solutions that are not grounded in Islamic thought, we see, for instance, that a lot of males and boys and men are failing in the school system, partially because of notions of what is it to be cool, for instance, where nowadays it's not cool to study, quote to quote. And a lot of boys and men, unfortunately, they adhere to that. It's also lack of resources in the school, lack of teachers, also lack of role models, because teaching today has become a profession that is mainly women and females that are the teachers. We don't see as much male and men as teachers. And I think that we need to bring in both men and women as teachers within the school system, so that, for instance, more boys can see that, wait a minute, there is male role models that are teachers, then I can also be a teacher, so that they can relate to role models. Also, I think with the whole aspect of normalizing secular ideologies like liberalism, feminism, socialism, etc., you find capitalism, materialism, you find this notion that actually it's good that more women are, being successful in academia. And we agree, we're very blessed to see so many great women succeeding, becoming great scholars. But their way is to see that as good, but they almost see it as men failing as good as well, because there is this almost aggressive notion towards men and masculinity. We as Muslims and adherent, and all of us that are adhering to Futuwwah, we believe that both men and women should be able to succeed when it comes to knowledge inquiry. Ilm is something that is a virtue and a duty for both men and women to acquire and to internalize. But I think some of these non-Islamic notions and liberal ideologies, you might think, okay, by seeing more women succeed in the academia, this is good because this is women empowerment. But as Muslims, we see if it's because men is not being able to actually succeed in studies and in working professionally, then this is not good. This is as the sister Dr. Fawzia is referring to, the spinster crisis, because the success, alhamdulillah, if it's from the tawfiq of Allah, it's always a blessing. But if it's due to the fact that the men are not getting support, and there is also this notion of demasculinization, and that men are the oppressors that should not get any resources at all, and we should just empower one gender over the other, then this is, of course, very unhealthy. This is not according to Futuwwah. As people that adhere to Futuwwah, we believe that both men and women should be empowered, and that knowledge is something which is a virtue both for men and women to internalize. So we shouldn't put the genders against each other. We should complete one another and support one another. So this is also perhaps one of the aspects why some of men and male are into the school system. If you guys can mute yourself when you join, please mute yourselves. Please mute yourselves, please. Please. Brother Osama, please mute the microphones. Thank you so much. Brothers and sisters, when you guys join, always mute yourselves, and only unmute when we open up for people to share the reflections. We have Kafila. Would you like to share some of your thoughts?
Sorry, brother, are you talking to me or not? I don't know.
No, I'm asking Kafila. Wa alaikum salam. Yes.
My own reflection has to do with the turning upside down, or would I say a kind of reversing the roles of men and women in the society, whereby the women now takes up the financial obligations, while men are now left to sit back at home trying to, giving excuses about not having a job, being out of job, or not being able to meet up with the financial obligations. And this is one of the very core, duties of men in the family. So that's one. Then the second thing has to do with the training given to male, such that they are overly dependent on their parents as they grow up to become young adults. It makes it difficult for them to actually face life challenges, such that will be able to build up their resilience, their chivalry in terms of bravery to be able to face life challenges. So I think this had to do, I so much admire the northern part of Nigeria, where I come from, whereby the male, though I can't say that attitude or that kind of integration, it's the best, not as much, but there is a particular aspect of it that I do appreciate, whereby as the male is growing up, is becoming more responsible for the upkeep of a family, as in his immediate nuclear family, even though he's not yet married. He's responsible for his sisters. If he has elder sisters and younger sisters, he's responsible for them, as well as his mother, which could not be said for my own tribe in Nigeria here, whereby the males don't see themselves as being mahram or guardian for their female siblings in the family. So these are the reflections that I have to share.
MashaAllah, sister. Thank you so much for enlightening us about the context of Nigeria. MashaAllah, we appreciate that, sister. Thank you so much. Very interesting remarks. Thank you. All right, brothers and sisters, let's read 2 more passages before we end today. I would like us to start from Modern Ideas of Gender here. And can I ask one of you to read?
Sorry, brother, you didn't give me a chance to give my input.
Sorry, Brother Rashid. We need to be able to,
Fine, no problem. Carry on.
Everybody to conversate. I will bring you in, inshallah. Your inputs are important, inshallah. Very briefly, Brother Rashid, because we don't want to lose a connection to your beautiful.
Very quickly. The reason for this problem between man and woman nowadays is that the standards of the ladies are very high, and they don't want to get the men which are available, and same with the men also. And the second quick point is that the prison population at the moment, although the Muslim population is 4% in the UK, the prison population is 18 to 20%. Yeah. Something is completely wrong there. Yes. Futuwwah needs to be done more. Jazakallah khair.
Jazakallah. We need your beautiful experience and expertise, Brother Ustad Rashid, inshallah. We will love to work with you. Thank you. So would somebody like to read from here? Brother Usama, I see your hand raised. Would you like to read from Modern Ideas of Gender?
I'd like to read.
Assalamu alaikum, Ustad. I raised it to add a few comments on the previous passage, but I can read as well, inshallah.
Okay, would you like to add your comments then, and then we will let. Was it a sister who would like to read? I didn't hear. Somebody was, but go ahead, brother. Yeah. Start to read here, and then you will add your remarks.
About the spinster effect, I think it's not just limited to Muslim communities. It's across the board, and it's happening everywhere in the world. And it has to do with the fact that the education system, it in a way it favors being less masculine and being limited and being more you could say submissive to authority, and that's how the whole system is structured, and that's why many men cannot find themselves comfortably being able to go through that infrastructure through half of their life. That's one of the reasons why they feel alienated from the education system. Another reason is the ignorance of physical exercise, because most people, they don't prioritize physical exercise for men. And historically, men have had a very high emphasis on physical fitness and exercise on par and equal to with the intellectual education. And because that's now completely been removed, it also alienates them from their fitrah. So I think these 2 points is what I wanted to add about the previous passage. If you want, I can read as well, inshallah.
Read from Modern Ideas of Gender and until Futuwwah.
Modern ideas of gender are entrenched in this materialistic worldview. Power structures are primarily lens by which the world is to be ordered, with clearly paradoxical results. This confusion, imbalances, and flux in the natural result of what Ibn al-Qayyim refers to as wahsha, isolation. Man is isolated from his Lord and is therefore by extension isolated from his purpose and reality. We are left floundering like fish out of water, not cognizant of the fact that true gender equality can only be achieved when each gender is allowed to flourish on its own biological terms. And only the ungendered logos, Allah, can be the basis for true spiritual equality. The modern masculine crisis has its own unique dynamic in this unanchored sea of secular chaos. The monomythic man's movement has identified 2 primary causes for the man-child we see in front of us today. Man-child is a brutal word. The loss of rituals of initiation and the resulting absence of true father figures, both themes present in traditional Futuwwah literature. Should I continue?
No, it's fine. It's fine. We don't have that much time, so I'm just reading parts of it. Hopefully next week, when we don't have the introduction and everything, we will have more time to read thoroughly. And it will be smaller passages that we will read, inshallah. Thank you, Brother Osama, for excellent reading. So I was thinking here, it's so interesting when The author Maulana says, true gender equality can be achieved only when each gender is connected with its own biological terms, which is the fitrah, and undergoing the only ungendered logos, which is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, can be basis for true spiritual equality. Anybody who would like to reflect upon both that statement and also this passage? Also the notion of rahsha, which Ibn al-Qayyim refers to. All right. You know what, brothers and sisters, because of lack of time, I'm going to really go to the last part here and see here. So page 14 will be the last. And by the way, that statement is just straightforward, something that is truly the essence of Futuwwah, which is to connect yourself with your own fitrah. And in that, both biologically, obviously, as men and women. And then from that, we socialize ourselves into a socialization process, which is infused by Qur'an and Sunnah and the works of our traditional scholars of Futuwwah. That will be the solution of how to bring ourselves to sacred masculinity and sacred femininity. So it's a very beautiful and very straightforward statement. So this will be the last part we will read today. Let me see here, just trying to find. You know what, brothers and sisters, I think we will end there, inshallah. I will stop sharing my screen. Jazakallah khair on everybody for joining today. It was such an honor to have you all with us. All of you who read, all of you who shared your reflections with regards to the reading. It was excellent inputs. Next week, we will continue reading more and do text reflections. I highly recommend you all to raise your hands and to share your reflections and to read, because this is a collective efforts that we're doing. So all of your inputs and reflections are highly valuable and very much appreciated. So now, within about 10 minutes, we will open the WhatsApp group, okay? So the WhatsApp group for the Futuwwah Academy Study Circles Book Club is where we're going to also discuss, all right? And continue the reflections of the text that we read. The WhatsApp group will be open for 24 hours. We're trying to use a new methodology. So throughout this 24 hours, we would like you guys to reflect about the things that we discussed today in our readings, and also the introduction message from Imam Dawud Walid, and also the introduction that I personally did as well about the Futuwwah, the notion of Futuwwah, what is Futuwwah, and also revival of the Futuwwah guilds through the Futuwwah Academy. So please share your reflections. We're going to ask a question there, which is a simple question, which is the journaling question. What is your thoughts about the first passages of reading today? So 24 hours it will be open, and then we will close it again, just for you guys to utilize these 24 hours, inshallah. And throughout the week, we might share some resources in the group and some questions. If you guys want to activate yourself, for instance, in the Futuwwah Academy, we will put some polls. And if there's any questions, you can reach out to the admins of the group, and they will be at your service. And please use the same Zoom link for next session, which will be next Sunday at 7:30 a.m. And to next Sunday, we will read the introduction chapter of the book, which is essentially from page 21 to from page 21 to page 27. So it's only 6 pages. So please read the preface that we read today, the whole preface. We might reflect a little bit about that before we start to read the introduction chapter together, and read also. So read from page 7 to 21, and then from 21 to 27, which is the introduction chapter, inshallah. Any final remarks before we end? So you guys know we will open up the WhatsApp group within 10 minutes. Start to discuss there, share your reflections, share your thoughts, and connect with one another, because you're all sources of expertise, experience, and knowledge. And let's together reflect upon how we can really understand the whole framework of Futuwwah, inshallah. Any final remarks before we end, dear brothers and sisters? Yes, Brother Rashid.
Brother, I was wondering, you said 6 pages. Could you share those 6 pages with us for those who don't have the book? Is it allowed?
We're currently speaking with the book publishing house, Brother Rashid. We're going to do a partnership between the ISIP and the Futuwwah Academy with hopefully the Imam Ghazali Institute, who published the book. But we haven't got the ijazah to share the book as of yet. That's why we're not sharing the book right now. So for those who do not have access to the book, we recommend them to either buy the book as a hard copy or buy it as a soft copy. Obviously, we will share the book in the reading. So if you cannot read before, then we will read here together. And then inshallah, if we can make any good partnership with Imam Ghazali Institute. We will see if they will allow us to perhaps share the book, but we don't have any ijazah for that right now, and that's why we're not doing it. I hope you understand, Ustad Rashid. Jazakallah khairan.
Yes, Jazakallah khairan. Shukran jazeelan.
Yes, of course. We can definitely do. All of your feedback is highly appreciated, Brother Hafiz, and how we can make the readings even better. Is there any feedback you want to share right now? We're happy to listen to it. You want to share anything, Brother Hafiz? Brother Hafiz?
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Any feedback, and what do you think could be, any feedback with regards to how we can improve the quality? Feel free to share.
Oh, actually, just a brief. I think for the next sessions, we can just focus on certain passages, or from brother side. Can you can you can ask us to read early, maybe. So
Yeah, inshallah. Yeah.
That's all for me so far. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Brother Hafiz. Your feedback is very crucial. Definitely, we will learn as we read together. It's not easy when we have so many people all over the world. And today we really focused on just trying to also listen to the thoughts of Imam Dawud as well, which was very important, his greetings. But definitely, what we will do, because most of the chapters are not that big, we will try to read the whole chapter, but I will pick out some passages as well, which I did today. And it's good that you guys read in advance as much as possible. But obviously, this is the first session, and many of you received the email yesterday, so maybe some of you didn't have time to read, which is totally understandable. So please check the reading schedule, and please read before the sessions. That will probably be the most beneficial way for you guys to benefit as much as possible when it comes to the readings, inshallah.
Yeah, maybe one more statement, brother.
Sorry, brother. Just we have some feedback in the group. I'll get back to you. Just one second. Sister Jade is writing. Thank you so much. Thank you, sister. It was an honor to have you with us. Brother Hafiz, thank you for your amazing feedback. All constructive feedback, we really appreciate it. That's part of Futuwwah, to give each other sincere nasiha. Seems like people are. Usama wrote, "Man, Shah comment was brutal." Yeah. There are some questions here. Yeah, alhamdulillah. All right, brothers and sisters. Yes, Ustad Rashid, if you want to share any last remarks, go ahead.
I was saying, for me personally, I prefer to be off the cuff, reading it for the first time and responding immediately. Allahu Alam.
All right. We'll
This
try
is my personal feeling, but of course, I don't suggest that for the group. Pre-reading is better. Because you may have more ideas over the weeks. If you read over and over again, more ideas come each time you read it. Shukran.
Of course. Thank you for your great remarks, Ustad Rashid. We're very honored to have you with us, dear brother. So
I'm sorry if I seem sometimes to be a bit more trying to take over what's happening. I don't mean to. I just have so much to say from my life experience.
MashaAllah, your life experiences are beautiful. And I think nobody here feels like that. We all appreciate you. As we said, this is an intergenerational task that we're doing. And to have our elders here and our seniors is something that we need. So no, by all means, please continue to share your life experience to us. It's very beneficial. This is part of Futuwwah, by the way. So alhamdulillah rabbil alameen, we're coming to the end of this first session. We went over time today. I will be very mindful that we don't do it next time. So please forgive me for any shortcomings. Please forgive me, brothers and sisters, if I coordinated this or I've facilitated this in an added way. My sincere apologies. I always say I'm a person with a lot of errors in my character. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows that. And if anything good comes from me, it's all from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And all the mistakes are solid in my. I want to thank Sister Dania, Sister Fatima, and Brother Shoaib for hosting in such an amazing way. I appreciate all of your efforts as the project managers of this beautiful study circle. I want to thank you all, my beloved brothers and sisters, for all of your contributions and dedication, for your readings and for your reflections. It was an honor to have you all with us. And we want to thank all of our scholars of our past and contemporary era for allowing us to learn from the sacred tradition of Futuwwah. And by the way, let's make dua also to one of our brothers. His name is two of our brothers, by the way. Sheikh Salim from Australia. I had the honor to meet him in a venue in Melbourne where we were speaking about Futuwwah. He passed away a couple of weeks ago. And also to Sidi Abbas, who is part of the Mbara team. beautiful brother who is also a student of Hakim Sensei, one of the great practitioners of Futuwwah in our tradition, and one of beautiful brother of ours and colleague of ours. He was a student of Hakim Sensei, and he also passed away a week or 2 weeks ago. And these are both Sheikh Salim. He actually studied in Tarim in Hadramut, and brother Sidi Abbas. They both were practitioners of Futuwwah, amazing brothers. Wallahi. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept all of our reading as sadaqah jariyah for them. For us to work with Futuwwah and revive Futuwwah and establish Futuwwah academies all over the world. May Allah accept it as sadaqah jariyah for these two amazing brothers. So let's read the Fatiha for them, inshallah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Maliki yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdina as-siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladhina an'amta alayhim ghayril maghdubi alayhim wa la dhalin. May Allah accept this as sadaqah jariyah for both of them, Sidi Abbas and Sheikh Salim. Beautiful brothers. We'll see each other next week, dear brothers and sisters, at 7:30 a.m. GMT. Please check the time zone according to your country. And the recording will be uploaded in the folder within a couple of hours, inshallah. And all the recordings will be also uploaded into ISIP's, the International Students of Islamic Psychology's YouTube channel. And inshallah, we will continue to work with each other for the sake of learning and growing collectively through the heart-to-heart and the murabata connection. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless this gathering, and we see you all next week, and we're looking forward to invite you all to join the Futuwwah Academy of Sacred Manhood and Sacred Womanhood. Take care of yourselves, dear brothers and sisters, and honored to have you all with us. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam. Syukran jazilan.